welcome back everyone for the second episode of Spoilers. This is going to be my comic review that's full of spoilers where I'm going to run down 3 comic books each week and give you sort of a pop-up video style tidbits of information of first appearances and connections and things going on in the comics that you might be reading this week, or I read them for you and just let you know what you missed. It's up to you, and I'll give you my take on whether these books are worth picking up, just leave them be, etc. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing this channel. And if you want to see this week's books, I have a Marvel, a DC, and an independent for you. And I'm going to try to do them in at least 10 minutes or less each book to try to keep this relatively quick. But you let me know what you think. Provide any feedbacks or criticisms, suggestions that you might have, as this is a work in progress. But if you want to see this week's books, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Alrighty then, let's just dive right into our first book, which is going to come to us from the Marvel comic side of things. And this week, we had a bunch of options, but I chose to do Psylocke #1. Since it's a new #1, a new series, figured you guys might want to know whether this is worth your time in picking up, reading, and continuing, etc. Now, before we dive into the pages of this book of Psylocke, let's just look at the character, the headline character alone, and her first appearance. So Psylocke, as you know, has been around for quite some years, and she has a rather convoluted history. So I'm going to just cover the baseline, high-level concepts, just so you got a broad idea of what we're talking about here. Now, the original Betsy Braddock goes all the way back over to the Marvel UK side of things with this first appearance in Captain Britain #8. This goes all the way back to December 1976. This book is older than I am. That's how far Betsy Braddock goes back. And inside this 10 pence copy of Captain Britain, we are introduced to his sister. And there you see Brian, yada, yada. It's my sister Betsy. So this is the first appearance of Betsy Braddock, because Betsy Braddock is Psylocke, who is Captain Britain's sister. At least that was her original, original intent, original creation. Now, this was 1976. It took nearly a decade for her to come over across the pond over to our side of things, and made her U.S. debut here in the popular book that everyone looks for, New Mutants Annual #2. You can see this came out in October of 1986. So again, almost a full decade since she was first introduced. She finally made her first appearance here in the U.S. That said, the character also went through a bit of a redefinement a little bit later on, as we had the whole X-Men Siege Perilous, and her body was taken over. They had like a body swap kind of action thing going on, and basically they redid the character and remade her in the mold of an assassin for the Hand. Now, they've gone on to try to explain, it's very confusing. They've gone on to explain it, how the character of Quanon, who this Psylocke character was, and this is, again, through Uncanny X-Men. This was Uncanny X-Men 256, where she was first introduced. You had the whole Wolverine kind of bits going on in here, a lot of Madripoor type stuff. Cool storylines, etc. And the Mandarin, obviously. But they completely remade the character of Psylocke and made her more of this ninja assassin character. Then they've gone on to explain that it was a character, and this little girl was raised by the Hand, but her consciousness got put in the body of Betsy Braddock, and they swapped, and I don't know. It was, again, convoluted history. But the point being, this version that has become the more popular or most popular version of the character first really showed up here in 256 of Uncanny. Now, pick and choose whatever first appearance you want to go through. I'm just trying to give you a broad strokes understanding of where the character came from before we get to this point, which is her solo series that we are now getting through Marvel. And yes, From the Ashes, A New Beginning. Okay, so let's just dive right in and just get right to it. Book opens up, and she's in the middle of, meeting with her team. Like, if you guys have been reading regular X-Men, she's part of Scott Summers' team with Magic and Temper, and you got Juggernaut and Kid Omega, etc. She comes rolling in, and basically, she's been away. She was in Palmdale, and it's like, what were you doing in Palmdale? Then they flash back. She had this whole storyline where she was rescuing this little girl as part of her side job. She's got a side hustle because she has all of this energy and training, and she doesn't know what to do with it. So outside of her duties with the X-Men, she's still running these little side missions on her own. But her team lead, Cyclops, noticed she's running herself ragged and decides she's benched. So she's benched, she's sidelined from whatever mission the team's going to go on here, just for the time being, which will allow her to take part in this solo series. So this is going to be the excuse of how she's part of a team and yet runs these side missions. Here we go. This is the explanation for it. So as she's benched, she decides to pick up another gig here. Well, actually, before she picks up another gig, she has to go find and make a booty call here with this character down here. So she goes out into the Arctic or wherever the hell she is to go find this long forgotten character. I mean, this guy hasn't been around for a while, but I think it's something Grey Crow is his actual name, but he was originally introduced as Scalp Hunter. So Scalp Hunter goes back a ways. Scalp Hunter was part of that original Marauders crew from way back in the day. So I don't know if you remember, but the Mutant Massacre, Uncanny X-Men 210 was the first time we were introduced to this character of Scalp Hunter. Granted, it was only a shadowed kind of first appearance. It's near the end, kind of introducing them at the tail end of the book. We didn't really get a good look, but that was Scalp Hunter there. Now, if you wanted to get his first full and get a good look at what he looks like, well, it was in the next issue here, 211, where it opens up right away, and boom, there he is. Kind of all technological. He has a healing factor. He's been around forever. That's kind of the backstory of this mutant Scalp Hunter. Now, going back to his time with Betsy, they're in bed together. She wakes up from this nightmare where she's having flashbacks. Again, a plot device to allow them to explain some of her backstory of how she was raised to be an assassin by the Hand. She's still having these nightmares. She wakes up next to him and she's like, I almost killed you. It fills in those blanks. Makes sense. But he's like, oh, don't worry about it. And, then they get down again. Cool. So there's their time. I don't know how much of a role Scalp Hunter's going to play, but they seem to have a little bit of relationship going on here. So it might come back and forth throughout this series or however long this run lasts. Now, with that said, after she leaves there, we're introduced to this newer character here. This is a Nico. Well, what's their name? Oh, Devon D'Angelo, not Nico D'Angelo. Nico D'Angelo is a character from the Percy Jackson series, but Devon D'Angelo here. I don't know if it's Devon or Devon, how you pronounce it, but they are introduced here as kind of Psylocke's point of contact person. They're picking up the jobs, they're scheduling things, doing the chair duties. Remember how in Spider-Man movie, his buddy was the guy in the chair? That's kind of the role here. So Devon is in the chair, feeding Psylocke information on her missions, etc. So she's picked up another job, letting her know that she has, they got something to do. Now, this would be the first appearance because this is a new character. So if you want the first appearance of this new side character, Devon D'Angelo, this would be it here. Now, with that said, we're going to move on to this job that they get. And this job is going to revolve around the mutant growth hormone, MGH. Now, MGH is the idea that all mutants and even non-mutants have this hormone in them that you can extract, and it could be tweaked and utilized to make these crazy things that allow people to have temporary powers, is what it kind of boils down to. It's kind of the nuts and bolts, little bits and pieces of how a mutant is a mutant, I guess. Now, this is an old concept. It also goes back a ways. So it's not a character appearance per se, but MGH as a concept goes all the way back to our Change in Beast, actually. So we're going back to Amazing Adventures number 11. And in this story, we get the backstory of how Beast went from just being an acrobatic guy to this furry creature because of the activation with another dose of MGH, mutant growth hormone. Now, I don't believe it was called MGH at the time, but this is it. It's the concept of it. Boom, he has it, and it affects him, and he turns into the fuzzy. He further mutates into the fuzzy and furry beast that we all know and love. So, with that said, concept goes back a ways. But in here, there's rumors of MGH being sold by AIM. AIM, I was going to put their first appearance in here too, but it felt like too much. So we're just going to keep rolling on with AIM being, bad guys. I mean, we've been watching the MCU. They're even included there, as that is what was Iron Man 3 was part of AIM. Advanced Idea Mechanics. And then you got the MODOK series also ties into AIM. But point being, AIM is running this auction. Psylocke's kind of busted in here. Devon on the comms, running in her ear, telling her where to go and what to do. So there we go. Got the big beekeeper heads. That's what the AIM bad guys look like. And they've hired security for this. And they're also auctioning off children. So these are children. I guess they're mutant children who they're going to sell off to the highest bidder for nefarious purposes for their mutant growth hormone that they could take. That said, we're not going to get too deep into that idea. I mean, it's terrible. It's a sin. But here are the other characters here in the background that are hired as backup, as muscle. Starting off with this guy right here, rocking the cape. This is Donald Pierce. Now, Donald Pierce goes way back to the Hellfire Club days, and it's a character that's been around for quite a while. As far as first appearances go, well, most point towards this Uncanny X-Men 129, which is also the first Kitty Pryde, White Queen, Sebastian Shaw, etc. But you don't actually see him. We're just supposed to understand that he is part of the Hellfire Club, and he's one of these shadowed dudes here. We don't know which one. He's one of those. Well, we know he's not the under the spade. I can't remember which one he was, but even that, the angle of where they're sitting is kind of wonky, so I don't know if we can trust that either. Point being, he's one of the shadowed faces, but you don't really get a good look at him. Now, we don't get a good look at him till a couple issues later, which would be, what is this, 132? And here he is. His name is Pierce. So, boom, there you go. There's your introduction to Donald Pierce. Now, getting back to the story, along with Donald Pierce, we also got this guy over here on the side with that skull face. No, it's not Crossbones. This is Skull Crusher, who is another character that's been around for quite a while. He was part of the Reavers, part of when the X-Men were in Australia, and you had all these humans that were all tricked out with cybernetics, and they were hunting the mutants, etc. So his first appearance is here in Uncanny 229, and again, he's part of the Reaver crew here. Boom. Granted, at the time, Skull Mask was red. Now it's white. Same character, same difference. And you got that tank dude back there. I don't remember what the tank guy's name is. Point being, weird crew, and kind of interesting. They've been around for quite a while. As this story gets played out, Psylocke's not having it. She's going to go and try to rescue these kids, and forces against her be damned. So she's going to go right after them all. And Skull Crusher here, after Donald Pierce kind of gets a hold of her, already got things in hand. Skull Crusher decides, you know what? He's going to go and try this mutant growth hormone for himself and kind of finish things. So he grabs all 5 of them. Apparently, they had different patches. They do different things. He slaps them on himself, and it does not go well for him. As it, again, temporary mutation aside, it turns him into this crazy beast thing. I don't even know what it is. It's got wings. It looks like Beta Ray Bill on steroids. I don't know what the hell's going on here. But he goes, hulks out into this beast thing, and it allows a distraction. Psylocke gets through Pierce, and then she goes and takes him down as well with her katana. Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, she's a pretty cool character as it is. But with that said, that's how our first issue ends, with her taking down this little this operation of MGH and selling of these small children, etc. She rescues him at the cost of what it looks like she killed this guy. It does look like she killed him. Who knows? It's comics. We don't know for sure. But with that said, not going to go on any further with that book. My final word on Psylocke #1 was, well, I'm in for another one. It was not the best thing I had read, but it definitely wasn't the worst. It had some decent moments in it. It's kind of cliched at times, but all in all, I like the art, and, well, I'm kind of curious where they're going to go next. It did have sort of a one-off storyline kind of feeling. I mean, granted, maybe we're going to get more follow-up Retribution, or AIM will strike back. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, or if we're just going to get more side missions that are different. I'm hoping that's more the angle, and then we get more like one-off issues to explore the character and tell more self-contained stories in some dragged-out long-form thing. That's personally what I'm looking for. But with that said, for any of you out there who have yet to try Whatnot, now's your chance. Please use my link down below. Get yourselves a free $15 for that first purchase, just so you can try out the app. You can go and check it out. No strings attached. You spend this $15 with whomever you want on whatever you want. So you really got nothing to lose, and you'll help out the channel, and you get yourself something nice. So use that link down below and give it a try. Again, they got daily auctions. A lot of people you might know, familiar sellers. They also have buy it now things too. If you don't feel like, trying your hand at auctions, you can just buy some things outright. Go take a look. Again, it's free money for you to give it a try. No strings attached. Now, moving on, we are going to move things over to the DC universe for our next book and try out another number one that I grabbed from the pile. Because again, I figured a new number one. Let me give it a try. Let me be your guinea pig and tell you what's what inside this. And for DC, I decided to try out Black Lightning number one. Now, I don't know a lot about Black Lightning. He is not one of my favorite characters over at DC, so I will admit this is not a character I know a lot about, but yet there is still plenty that we can cover and talk about here. So we're going to first cover the character of Black Lightning. What's his name? I think his name's like Jefferson Pierce or something like that. But he goes back a ways, rocking it back to the 70s with his first Thunderous origin issue here, Black Lightning. So very easy to understand. What's his first appearance? Well, it's the first issue of his solo series. And there he is right there on the cover. No confusion. There you go. Black Lightning number one. First Black Lightning. Thank you very much. Now, getting into this volume of Black Lightning. I mean, he's a character again. He's been around a while. He even got a CW show there for a while, which actually also did introduce his daughters who are on the cover there with him. And that's kind of the angle of where this story and this new book is going to go. It's not all about him. It's about his family. So with that said, we're seeing some flashbacks to some of the Amanda Waller stuff that just kind of played out with Absolute Power, etc. So we're getting things there. He's talking to his ex-wife at this time, and I guess she's kind of almost being a little bit of therapy, or they're just kind of chatting things out as he is working with one of his daughters in his superhero gig today. So there you go. In the middle of their conversation, he's getting a call. His daughter's saying, something's going down. So he's grabbing a boom tube, going over to Metropolis to see what's what. Now, he joins his daughter, who is aptly named Lightning. I know, it's not the most inventive of names. I mean, he's Black Lightning. She's just Lightning. I think they could have done better. But that's it. It's not my decision. There it is. So there it is. Her name is Lightning. She's made of lightning, I guess, at this point. She's using her power. I don't know. They make her glowy red. She almost looks like she's on fire, but it's lightning, apparently. Now, Lightning goes back to Justice Society of America number 12, part of the Jeff Johns run. I love this run. Dale Eaglesham doing the art. Great stories in this run. I'm a big fan. But this is where she was first introduced, as we were getting like a whole crop of new recruits at the time. And there it is. There's Black Lightning 2. She's apologizing to her dad because he doesn't want her to take part in this stuff. And here we are, a couple decades later. I think it's about 20 years old now. I think it's been a while for that JSA book. But that all said, there she is, her first appearance. Now, getting back to the actual story of the book we're actually reading, they are there because a new superpower has been activated. So very similar to things we've seen like in the Marvel side of things with mutants and them being activated. That's kind of where they went with this Absolute Power, where I think Amanda Waller, she took the powers from all the superheroes and then they activated all these people. And then there's kind of just things going on as sort of like fallout from those actions. So we're getting new people activating with powers, which is a good way to excuse DC to start creating some new characters, whether they be heroes, villains, etc. So cool, fine. I mean, it's a good method to do it. So here we go. This guy activating powers in the school. He was getting picked on. He doesn't know what's going on, and his body is kind of lashing out with what it seems to be another lightning electrical type power, but his is red. Come on now. Like, couldn't he have something else? Like, couldn't he just be fire? Like, couldn't he just be a fire? I don't know, but be that as it may, he's got some sort of weird red electrical energy coming out of him. Now, police are there, try to take him down, but Black Lightning and his daughter Lightning show up. They scoop him up, take him away to the Watchtower because he has this new program where this is what Black Lightning's doing. He's going and finding these newly activated superpowered people and trying to scoop them up, bring them back to train them, help them deal with what the changes that they're going through and all that. Makes a lot of sense. Very good idea. Cool. I mean, it's a very good concept. It's, again, another way we can start using this to give creators a chance to create some new characters, etc. Just give them some different power sets. Like, can we just get beyond the lightning? But with that said, we're seeing the Watchtower through this guy's eyes as they're going to put him through a test tube to say, oh, we're going to put a power dampener on you to kind of help you deal with this so you don't lash out, yada, yada, yada. While they're there, his daughter, I think his daughter's Jen. I think I can't remember their regular names, but Lightning is getting a call from her older sister. Like, her older sister is down in New Orleans, and she's making excuses why she can't come and visit, yada, 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 yada. She's like, all right, come. You still got to come down eventually. I'll let this slide for right now, etc. So there's the other daughter. They're talking to each other on the phone. Now, while this is going down, let me just first tell you about Thunder, because that is what the other daughter's name. She came actually first. This is the older daughter. This is Thunder. Now, her looks kind of changed a little bit. She doesn't have this blonde hair any longer, but it's still the same character who goes all the way back to Outsiders. And this is Outsiders #1 from 2003. So yeah, this is over 20 years old. And this was this new squad. This is also a book we talked about because of Grace Choi there. So we got that kind of connection. But there we go. Thunder first appears in this book. As you can see here. Boom. There you go. What do you guys think? There's her first. Now, with that said, we got both daughters covered. We've got Black Lightning covered. Now let's just get back to the rest of this story, which sees Superman kind of calling Black Lightning in. He's like, no, I'm not calling you here. I know it can feel like the principal's office. I'm not here to scold you or anything like that. I just want to thank you for all the work you're doing. Because again, you're doing the good work, helping out these new kids with their powers, yada, yada, yada. Cool. From there, they get another call about another activation. And it's another Lightning type character who looks just like her sister. Looks just like, oh, sorry, I spoiled it. But yeah, that's where we're going with this. But it's another Lightning type character being activated. Lightning goes to help, and Black Lightning's there as well. They both kind of fall. Black Lightning's got to decide who to save first. Do I save my daughter, or do I save the strange new character? Well, I'll get to my daughter later and help the strange character. Well, first, yeah. I'll help the stranger first. And it turns out, well, it's not a stranger after all. It's his other daughter. So, yeah. Sorry, Daddy, it happened again. I don't know the history of these characters to know what it is that happened again. But, yeah, more lightning powers. More lightning powers. So you got Black Lightning, and then his daughters, Thunder and Lightning. Now, again, I see the idea behind naming them Thunder and Lightning, but we could have done something else. That's all I'm saying. And I know it's been decades now, so it's kind of late to make these changes, but it's never too late to come up with a new moniker, right? That said, what do I think of this book? Well, for this one, it was okay, but it's all right, but it wasn't for me. So I'm just not going to continue this. Again, I'm just not a big fan of the character, and this is not the DC book that I'm going to need to be picking up on the regular. But it was all right. It wasn't terrible. Introduced some concepts that I'm not opposed to. It's just, I don't know. I'm just not into reading anymore, so I'm probably not going to pick this up any further. But, yeah, sometimes you do what you got to do. Just like you sometimes need to go and spend money that you don't want to spend on your supplies. You got to buy bags, you got to buy boards, you got to buy boxes, etc. So while you got to do that stuff, you got to spend money you don't want to spend just to keep your hobby collectible safe. Save yourself some money while you do it. Use my link below. Use my code RENA10 to save yourself 10% off at BCW, so you can at least save money while you're buying those bags, boards, boxes, top loaders, and things that you don't want to waste your money on, but you got to do it anyway. So again, you got to do it. Might as well save while you do it. So with that said, use the link, use the code, save yourself a few bucks, and why not, right? With that said, one more book for you today, and we're going to go over to the indie side of things, and I'm going to focus in on an image book today. I'm not always going to do image. I might mix it up, might do a boom book here or there, IDW. Whoever's got a new book for the week, we'll see what seems interesting. But for today, I kind of had to do it. You guys all should know by now, I'm a huge fan of the Energon universe. So yeah, G.I. Joe #1 came out, and yeah, I'm going to do G.I. Joe #1. Granted, we did talk about this on the tax show last night, and I was none too complimentary in my initial thoughts on the book. I've had some time to sit and think about it. But with that said, let's just dive right into it. Now, G.I. Joe #1, it's kind of it's a new #1. It is what it is. And it's got definitely a lot of recap in here. And I get that. I think part of what I was expecting is I didn't think we were going to get so much recapping. But considering we've had 4 other miniseries so far with Duke, Scarlet, Cobra Commander, and Destro, we got to bring everybody up to speed. So this way, people who didn't read any of those other miniseries, which were excellent, by the way, and you probably should, if they didn't read them, this way they're not lost. I get it. That's it. Here we go. So our first page is going back to that Duke mini and kind of kicking us off to right where we're starting, where we're heading for this clash between G.I. Joe and the Transformers, because Duke lost a buddy because Transformer came through and just killed him like he was nothing. That said, here's our Duke. Duke goes back, and again, we can do the different versions, and there's the Energon versions of them, yada, yada, yada. But original Duke, original recipe Duke goes back to that Real American Hero run. And surprisingly, he didn't show up in #1. He showed up in issue 22. So it was almost 2 years into the comic book run before we got Duke in the comics. So here you go. G.I. Joe, pretty cool Destro cover as well. Is our first appearance of Duke. He also showed up with Roadblock. This is also Roadblock's first appearance. But here we go. There's Duke introducing himself to the squad near the end of this book. But that's the first appearance of Duke, if you were curious. Now, the book continues on to give us more recaps to kind of introduce you to the characters we've already met along the way in the other minis. So they give you a quick recap of who Rock and Roll is and a quick recap of who Stalker is. And both of these characters, both Rock and Roll and Stalker, go all the way back to the original G.I. Joe #1. So if you want their first, there you go. G.I. Joe Real American Hero #1. They're not the only ones in that book. That book obviously has a lot of first appearances in the G.I. Joe realm of things. So when we go to the next page where they recap a few other characters like Clutch and Baroness, you guys all know Baroness, right? Yes, they are also first appearances from that G.I. Joe #1. But another main character that we have as part of this initial squad of G.I. Joe characters right here is CoverGirl. Up at the top. I skipped over her because she isn't in the original G.I. Joe #1. She has her own first appearance, so I figured let's pull her aside and we'll talk about her separately. Model turned tank builder or something. I don't know how you want to recap what she is, but she is a character that goes all the way back to G.I. Joe #16. Pretty cool. I remember she had that weird little like missile vehicle thing when she came out. But G.I. Joe #16 is the first appearance of CoverGirl here. And she's sitting on her little tank missile rocket machine thing from back in the day, too. Little stereotypical. She's like, oh, she's checking her nails. I mean, it was a different time back then. But this is her first appearance if you want to go dig in those boxes and look for it. Now, continuing on, just to kind of give you a sense of what they're doing, this is a new squad that they're putting together, this G.I. Joe team, and Baroness was a risk, as General Hawk is telling him, and she's not getting along with the crew so far. I mean, the whole crew's not getting along so far, and they're starting to tease the deficiencies that we have here with the G.I. Joe team. As you can see, their equipment's not working right. Her jetpack kind of went faulty, and Duke had to save her, or she might have died there. That's it. They're hinting at the difference between the Joes and the other side, which hasn't really been introduced to us fully yet. But we've met these characters along the way, but things aren't where you would expect them to be just yet. So here we go. Springfield, USA. There is Destro working with, I could have put Scrap Iron in there, but we've gone over that. And then we got a Bat. Again, they have already shown up in the Destro miniseries and the Cobra Commander series before it. So Destro here. If you want to know Destro's first, he goes back to G.I. Joe #11. Yeah, I know. It's a shadowy introduction, but it is Destro nonetheless. So just to give you a sense of it, this is him. He's talking. He's chatting it away with Baroness and Cobra Commander. We just don't see his actual face yet. You just see his butt and the rest of his body, and he's in a few panels of #11. He's also in a few panels of I think issue 13, and they actually show his face, mostly shadowed, but you show him again. And then I think it's 14 where you see him on the cover, and then a lot of people like to call that his first full. But just know, he showed his face before then. He's interacted with the characters. He's been around, so call whatever you want. I don't care if you call it cameo. I don't care if you call it first, whatever. I just want to tell you what's in the book. And he's in this book. That's him. So just know that. Do whatever you want with that information. Now, Cobra Commander is another character who we've already been introduced to. I mean, a whole mini-series here. Granted, they're really going with the Cobra Law kind of aspects from the G.I. Joe the movie, but Cobra Commander 1 is also from the original G.I. Joe #1. So his first appearance is there, as you might expect. So quickly hitting you with that. Another character that's on the bad guy side of the fence is this character back here. This is Mercer, who has been part of, again, these miniseries leading up to now. But Mercer is not an original character from the OOG run. He kind of wasn't introduced in the comics, at least, until IDW. Actually, it wasn't IDW. It was the Image run. So there was Devil's Due, there was IDW, Image had a run. A lot of different people had their hands in crafting G.I. Joe stories over the decades. So this was part of the Image run where we were introduced to Mercer here on this, pretty cool Serpentor cover too, by the way. But here he is. There's Mercer. I'm sure you remember Mercer. So boom, there's his first appearance in that issue 23 from the Image run. Now, going back to the story, Destro's using the Energon because that's kind of the angle that Cobra Commander is using Energon and as is Destro to kind of fund and power and create, mayhem. So they're now using Energon to make their laser weapons, kind of like they have in the cartoons and stuff. It's kind of explaining that. So they're not firing bullets, they're firing lasers. And those lasers are pretty effective. Now, also in this issue, we're kind of introduced to this character. This kind of broke up the storyline a little bit. We're just connected to this character who's running some side mission on a yacht. And we're like, what the hell's going on here? And this is our first introduction to this new G.I. Joe, this character called Risk. We find that out because his name is on his watch when it's like Risk. You got to report to whatever. But this would be his first appearance. So this is a new G.I. Joe character. And if you're looking for a new first, this is his first appearance in this first issue of this new Skybound run. Now, after his couple of pages of his little backstory aside, we go back to Duke, who's kind of questioning his team, et cetera, and General Hawk's kind of there to tell him, like, look, I don't need you to train everybody to be like you. We've already got you. You need to train your team to be the best they can be and then bring everybody together. So I don't want them to be all of you because we already got you. Yada, yada, yada. So you get it. Pull up your bootstraps, clear eyes, full hearts can't lose kind of, speech. So Duke is ready to bring his team together, and he's got no time because now they got another mission. So going into the team, they're kind of coming together a little bit here, but now they got another mission before they'll go and tackle the Transformers. They've got to go and protect some things over here. But while they're doing their protection job, which Baroness didn't think was worth her time, they were invaded by Cobra. Look, Cobra hacking into everything. What's going on? Nobody knows. What does this mean? Because Cobra isn't a thing yet. So now we're being introduced to Cobra. And they're coming through. We got a little helicopter kind of calling back to one of the vehicles from back in the day, too. And then you got the Cobra infantry firing away. And then eventually the more important Viper troopers come rolling in with their laser blaster guns. And they're just showing the G.I. Joe they can't handle this. They got nothing to match, the firepower that Cobra's running in here with. So laser blasts coming all through here. And as I mentioned, this is a spoiler-filled review. So you're going to get spoiled for this entire issue. Because while this issue was a little bit uneven, near the end, it kind of a shocker as we had Rock and Roll. He's going right at them. He's going right at these Cobra guys, despite the fact that they've got their laser weapons. And they make him pay for it pretty severely because I don't see how he's coming back from this. Unlike the cartoons where parachutes popped up even after all the explosions, nobody died during those wars. The people are getting wrecked here. So, this might be the end for Rock and Roll already. I don't know. We'll have to find out in the next issue. But there it is. That was the end of that first issue. And with that, I know I'm biased. And I was pretty harsh on it yesterday because, again, I wanted more because I didn't want so much recap, but I get it. They had to do that. So I've come to terms with it in rereading it again today, and it's not as bad as I had originally been giving it crap for. It is a decent book. It brings everybody up to speed and allows us to move now forward. Whether people saw or those original miniseries before this one or not, we can all move forward together. So I'm still in. So my final word is I'm still in on this. Looking forward to more. And with that, that's all I got for you this week. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you still like this series and this makes sense to you. I'm trying to do this as contained as I can and do 10 minutes at a time, maybe even a little bit shorter. I get it. I can sometimes start rambling and talking too much. So, I'll tighten it up going forward. But other than that, do you like this concept and do you like this format? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'll see you soon with some more content. All right.